I think they probably are so immersed in their own narrative that they probably find it quite hard to understand why people take a pop at them. They probably find it quite hard to understand why they are so divisive.
Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two rather famous royal couples on either side of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex right here in sunny California.
And I'm Katie Nicoll, and I'll have all the latest news from the Prince and Princess of Wales here in the UK, where it's been, I think it's fair to say, a pretty epic weekend of sport, with more than a treat of royalty splashed into there. Kinsey, we weren't necessarily expecting the Princess of Wales at Wimbledon. We were hoping that she was going to turn up. And then we had the announcement just the day before the men's singles finals, which is, of course, the biggest day of the tournament, that she was going to be there. And when she stepped out into the royal books on centre court, resplendent in that beautiful purple dress and accompanied by Princess Charlotte, it really was a special moment. I mean, there are always standing ovations when a member of the royal family turns up for the finals, because everyone's on a high. Anyone that is lucky enough to get a seat around that centre court is on such a high at that moment. Most people stand up on their feet and applaud for the royal. But this felt like an extended standing ovation. This felt incredibly special, very warm, quite emotional. I mean, it was certainly one of those moments where I had a bit of a lump in my throat, and I can't believe for a minute that the Princess of Wales didn't. She looked absolutely overwhelmed and delighted to be there, don't you think?
Yeah, I loved it. She almost looked at Princess Charlotte. I believe she said "so sweet" after the applause and after the roar in the arena. Is it just me, or did that place look especially packed? Do you think people were like, she's going to be there and wanted to be there too, or is it just the typical climax of an event like this?
I think, to be honest, the latter. I mean, this was a big final. You know, this was a repeat of what we'd seen last year. Djokovic, Alcaraz. This incredible sort of power duo. It was always going to be a brilliant final. I don't think anyone expected to be quite as nail-biting as it was. I think the atmosphere just sort of ramped up even more when the announcement came that the Princess of Wales would be there. And as you know, I was at Wimbledon a few days before that, and sort of kept looking over at the royal box and thinking, oh, it just looks a little bit thin. It looks a little bit sad without the Princess of Wales, because I think she's become so synonymous with the sport. She not only is an avid tennis fan, loves the game, loves to watch the game, but she is a great player as well. I know that when her and William get on the court, it's one of the times when they are fiercely competitive. And I actually think that most of the time, the Princess of Wales wins. She beats her husband in tennis because she's a great tennis player. And it's lovely to know that sort of tennis bug that runs through the Middleton genes has been inherited by Princess Charlotte, because she looked really engaged during that match. And I loved it that the Princess of Wales went to meet all of the ball boys and the ball girls and some of the other players and introduced them to Charlotte, and said, you know, when they met Alcaraz after he'd won, that they've been watching the leaderboard and they've been watching the tennis at home. You know, you can see that tennis is something that's really important to them. And as I say, something that's been continued. And I thought it was lovely that Princess Charlotte was there. It sort of felt like a mummy and daughter's day out. And of course, Pippa, Auntie Pippa to Charlotte, was there in the royal box as well. So I think a really nice family outing. And I think it really lifted everyone's spirits to see the princess not only there, but looking as well as she did, Kinsey.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll transition to Prince William and Prince George, but how cute did Charlotte look in her Ray-Bans? When I saw her in her little pink Ray-Bans and her polka dot dress, all I could think was, I will never be as cool as this child. This is a child that is cooler than me, and I will never be as effortlessly cool as Princess Charlotte, sitting there watching the balls go back and forth. She has inherited everything I absolutely love about both of her parents.
Yeah, she did look incredibly cool and comfortable. And forget she's only 9 years old. That's a long match for a 9-year-old to sit through. I mean, I did notice, Kinsey, and I don't know whether you noticed this as well, the cameras seemed less trained on the royal box than they usually are. I wonder if there'd perhaps been a word, I don't know, but possibly a word between the palace and the BBC that, given the Princess of Wales is going through treatment, given she was there with her daughter, as I say, Charlotte's only 9, that perhaps the cameras weren't going to hone in too much on that royal box. But yes, a big thing for a young child to sit through. And as always at these events, Princess Charlotte behaving absolutely impeccably. And as you say, sort of having the smoothest qualities of both of her parents, and clearly having inherited that passion for tennis, while Prince George obviously has the football bug. And he was, of course, at the Olympian Stadium in Berlin watching the final between Spain and England. Another nail-biting final. I think the thing that struck me most of all, Kinsey, was the picture of William and his son sort of on the edge of their seats, heads in their hands, waiting to see if England were going to be able to recover in those final few minutes of the game, which of course they couldn't. And I just thought, okay, Prince George, you're going to have to get used to this. This is England. We made it to the final. We didn't quite make it through. You're in for many years of some disappointment and hopefully many successes to come. But it was just that sort of plethora of emotions that both of them were going through. And it's like watching a mini me when you see Prince George with his father, particularly when they seem to be watching football together. They really do mirror one another.
Oh, I mean, identical. The facial expressions, I saw several pictures out there where there would be like joy, pain, and it just, you could see carbon copies on one another. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This was such a fun weekend, and I do think that it was heightened by the fact that the Princess of Wales was a surprise. On top of that, we also get a Charlotte sighting. So it was an incredible weekend for royal watching. It does feel like, it feels like things are improving, and it feels like perhaps things are getting better at home health-wise. But we also, again, are grateful for the opportunity to see the Princess of Wales, but understanding that there are good days and bad days, and there's no pressure to see her again anytime soon, because we understand that she just wants to be better for her babies.
Of course, and I'm quite sure that we probably won't be seeing her anytime in the near future, because the children have broken up for their summer holidays. They're going to be leaving Windsor, heading to Anmer Hall, which is their countryside bolt hole in Norfolk, and really just hunkering down as a family, enjoying the British summer, or what we have of a British summer. I have to stress it hasn't been wonderful, but that doesn't seem to bother them. They really enjoy these sort of typical bucket and spade holidays, going sailing. They've got a lot of friends in Norfolk, and I think this is just some time to be together as a family. I was told there were 2 events that the princess was absolutely determined to be at. One was Trooping the Colour, of course, the King's official birthday parade, and we saw her there up on that balcony in June. She was determined to be there to support her father-in-law, the King, and to try and make it to Wimbledon. A bit of disappointment that she didn't make it for the women's finals, but I think a sense of a really happy surprise that she was able to be there for the men's finals. And as you say, Kinsey, I think this is an indication that at home things are getting better, that she is feeling well enough. I mean, I thought she looked fantastic. I mean, yes, of course she's looking slim. She's going through some pretty grueling treatment, but that smile and those dimples, she looked really radiant. She looked so happy to be there, and deeply touched, I think, by the reception that she got from the crowd. And I know from sources at Kensington Palace just how much joy she has taken from the many letters that she's received in recent months, from the support from members of the public who have spent time writing in to share their own stories. And I think this is her way of just bringing that ray of sunshine to centre court, which she did.
And it's hard too when you watch Anne, who jumps right back in, the Princess Royal, so fierce, so tough. I loved their post to Princess Anne calling her a super trooper, saying that they were so happy to see her back. Well, let's jump back over to the States. It was actually a very busy week for the both of us, because we had the Sussexes attend the ESPYs Awards in Los Angeles. The Sussexes actually skipped the red carpet and went straight into the theater before taking their seats. Meghan wore a white halter gown by Oscar de la Renta, which seems to be one of her favorite colors. Or maybe it just reminds me so much of her wedding reception dress, which was actually my favorite dress of the day when she got married, that beautiful halter dress. But those dresses almost had a similar look. She was photographed with her hand on Prince Harry's knee inside the venue in Los Angeles, both smiling ear to ear. The event was hosted by Meghan's friend Serena Williams. She jokingly asked them not to steal the limelight in her introduction. She said, "Please, Harry and Meghan, try not to breathe too much tonight because this is my night and I don't want to be overshadowed by accusations of you guys taking up too much oxygen." So definitely Serena Williams poking fun at the fact that Harry and Meghan are clickbait. She was later seen clapping Meghan Markle as Prince Harry accepted the ESPYs Pat Tillman Award for Service. The ESPYs themselves credited Harry's involvement with the Invictus Games as to what put him on their radar and what ultimately led to him receiving the trophy. But as you and I have both discussed here, that decision did not come without some controversy. ESPN's highly successful, maybe the #1 rated show, Pat McAfee show, kind of tore into the decision. 75,000 signed a petition, and Pat Tillman's mother, Mary Tillman, spoke out against it, saying, she just said he has a privileged life, and she felt like the award should go to maybe an unsung hero, somebody that could utilize that platform that hadn't received that type of attention before. Prince Harry acknowledged her in her speech, saying, and this surprised me, saying, "I'd like to acknowledge the Tillman family and especially Mrs. Mary Tillman, Pat's mother. Her advocacy of Pat's legacy is deeply personal and one I respect. The bond between mother and son is eternal and transcends even the greatest losses." His speech was about 4 minutes long, and he did just as we predicted. You predicted it, made an effort to make it all about the Invictus Games. I know you weren't pleasantly surprised, but because you absolutely said this is what he's going to do, and I feel like he would have done this, even need to be asked this question. Did you feel like it was a good speech?
Yes, I did, Kinsey. I really thought it was right and went down really well that he acknowledged the Tillman family. He would have got up and made that speech knowing exactly what had been said, and possibly even feeling himself that someone else might have been more deserving of that award, someone that didn't have the platform that he enjoys. So I think what he did in that very gracious and humble speech, putting it all on the Invictus community, making it all about veterans, making it all about those who've served on the front line, was absolutely the right thing to do. But we can't take away from the fact that Prince Harry himself served on the front line, and not just once, but 2 tours of Afghanistan. And, I think there is always the risk when you have someone like the Duke of Sussex who caught such controversy within that spotlight, and that he's going to overshadow an event for all the wrong reasons. And you mentioned Serena Williams sort of jesting about them not stealing her thunder, and I'm sure that's probably, to be honest, Kinsey, why they chose not to walk the red carpet. They don't want to upstage the people that they're there for. But Harry was never going to snub that award or turn it down. So I think he did absolutely the right thing by making sure it wasn't all about him. It was about the wider community.
I do have to ask, because I think well, first of all, do you think Harry and Meghan understand why they're controversial figures? Because Prince Harry was controversial in the most fun way 10 years ago, but that tone has changed. Do you think that they are bewildered as to why somebody like Mary Tillman would consider them controversial or divisive, or do you think they understand that people don't agree with the things they've done since they've left the royal family? And I'm specifically talking about Oprah or some of the revelations in Spare.
I don't know is the honest answer, but I think they probably are so immersed in their own narrative that they probably find it quite hard to understand why people take a pop at them. They probably find it quite hard to understand why they are so divisive. But I think sometimes they do have the tendency to come over as being slightly tone deaf. And I think relieved and not entirely surprised. As you say, I said I thought he would make it about the Invictus Games, but I think he played that one really well. And I think it was a great speech, and I think he came out of it, looking admirable.
I have seen, too, some people make the comment that they wondered if future foundations or award shows would hesitate to give them awards going forward in the future. And I think that that's a fair point. And I know we're running out of time, but I do think it's a fair point to make that some people might not think all press is good press and might hesitate to award them in the future, knowing that it could attract a lot of negative attention.
I think it's something they have to be mindful of, and they're not going to stop going to events. They're not going to stop going to awards. I mean, part of their strategy moving forwards is obviously to be high profile, and to make sure that they are seen and that they're all the right places. So they're always going to be controversial figures. I think they're always going to divide opinion, but it's not going to stop them from getting out there. I mean, this is Harry and Meghan, right? They're not going to step back quietly from the spotlight. So I think we can expect to see them at more things like this in the future.
Well, a jam-packed show, and one we should probably really enjoy, because it's like you said, now that the children are on break, we might not see as much. So what a great weekend we had, royal watching. And if you agree with Katie and I, please let us know in the comments below. If you disagree, that's the same. It's the same place. You can have that conversation there too. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.